Welcome to the nation's capital. I'm at the National Gallery of Art because I wanted to see how some very famous paintings maybe could be paired with some wine. Well, let's see what I come up with. Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's episode. Yes, from the National Gallery of Art. As always, wandering the halls. Of course, I was in the Italian section and saw probably one of the most famous paintings in the whole National Gallery. It's their Leonardo da Vinci's Ginevra de Benci. And it's stunning. It's great to see everyone who crowds around it. Very similar to his Mona Lisa at the Louvre. Whenever you're in Paris and you get a chance to see it, you'll just follow the crowds and you'll end up finding the Mona Lisa. And we were lucky enough to actually go to Milan, and I was able to see the Last Supper there. So three incredible world-famous Leonardo da Vinci paintings. So looking at the painting, well, what wine would go with that? Well, it turns out I went with a Rosso Di Montalcino, and it's a stunner. So I'll tell you a little bit about the wine, but let's look a little bit about that painting itself. So this Leonardo painting, and why I ended up thinking Tuscany and one of my favorite Tuscan wines, the Rosso Di Montalcino, is the painting of Ginevra. She was about 16 when her portrait was taken, and Leonardo was very young. This is one of his earliest paintings, and he was only 21, and it was commissioned, as was the practice during the Renaissance, by maybe one of her admirers. And Leonardo was sort of just so far ahead of his time. The way he did the portrait of her, not straight on, but a little to a little movement, was just had never been done before. So he broke new ground. So I thought, wow, that's just and the way he captured her, her look, it's great, and it's painted on wood, which is quite incredible, and it's nice. You can go all the way around the painting, and then you can see a little bit in the back, and it has a little poem in the back. And of course, poetry was another sign of a well-educated, well-to-do woman in the Renaissance time. So Ginevra was quite well off and very learned, as they say, and she had her portrait done by Leonardo da Vinci. So we'll go to Tuscany, and we'll get a wine that I think is just one that I would love for you to try. The Rosso di Montalcino is nice because it has, sort of like the younger daughter or younger sister to this very big brother, which is Brunello di Montalcino. And those are very world-class, very expensive. Well, these are a little easier to find, a little bit more approachable. Still the Sangiovese grape, and I think it goes so well with food. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to give you a special technique in the recipe I use whenever you want to cook mushrooms. This is a really great technique I learned on America's Test Kitchen, so I'm happy to share it with you. So I knew the painting, so I was thinking, well, Tuscan, I have my wine from Tuscany. How about a dish also from Tuscany? So what I decided to pair this wine with is something that I had when I was in Florence many years ago, and I took little filet mignon medallions. So you could get a filet mignon from the store or your butcher, and just usually slice it in half and do a quick saute of those. I finish it in the oven, and then I usually have a sort of a tomato based with some sort of a demi-glace, a veal or beef demi-glace, and cook that all together and pour it over some rigatoni. And wow, that with the wine was just delicious. So how do you tell what's this Mastro Janni Rosso Di Montalcino. What's it all about? What does it taste like? Well, you'll tell by looking at it. It's a bright red ruby, and just the cherries just sort of jump out of the glass. And what's nice about the wine is it's not too tannic. Has some nice acidity, which is great, because one of my favorite things about the Sangiovese grape is its acidity and that it goes well with anything that has tomatoes. So any tomato-based sauce, or the sauce that I made, even though I had a veal demi glace I added to it, I also added tomato paste and some crushed tomatoes. So it worked very, very well, and it also went well with the beef. So as most Italian wines are so food friendly, I encourage you to try this wine. This wine was only $25. I found it at one of my local Italian stores, but they also have it at Total Wine and wine.com. So there are plenty of places to find this wine. Well-known producer. They get very excellent ratings. So I think it's one of those affordable ones, much more affordable than the Brunellos, which we've talked about a couple times on our show, and we'll continue to talk about those. But those are quite expensive, and you have to wait a little while to enjoy these. Boy, with the Rosso Di Montalcino, you can just, you can get it, you can drink it, and you can enjoy it right away. So this one, again, as I said, had perfect acidity, which is one of the hallmarks of the Sangiovese grape. Nice acidity, perfect food pairings, and excellent with tomatoes, just like mine was. So what was the technique that I learned on America's Test Kitchen that I wanted to share with you when I made my sauce to go with this wine from Tuscany? Well, whenever you're using mushrooms in a sauce, and they could be, you know, a wine sauce or the sauce that I made, or anything that uses mushrooms, if you've done it before, you know how much water they give off. Well, the technique is when your pan is dry, so in other words, don't put the butter and the olive oil in it and then add your fresh mushrooms and saute them. Instead, add the mushrooms to an already hot pan and saute them without anything. And it's a little scary at first, but you keep sauteing them, and you'll notice they'll give off water and start sort of browning and getting this really beautiful brown glaze to them without adding the oil and without adding the butter. Then you remove them. While they're sort of cooling, you move on with your sauce and you add those mushrooms back to the sauce. And sure enough, it finds that, you know, the mushrooms seem to absorb the sauce better and yet still keep their nice texture. So that was the technique I learned from America's Test Kitchen, if you've ever watched that. And they also have a website. But great little technique, and there you can see me doing it. So what a great pairing. Here I am at the National Gallery of Art looking at this world-famous Leonardo da Vinci painting with a great wine from Tuscany. Of course, that's where Florence is. And then with my own homemade beef medallions with a mushroom sauce over some rigatoni. Wow, what a great evening. I hope you have many enjoyable evenings yourself. Thank you for being such loyal subscribers. I'll put plenty of details about the wine and where to find it, including the recipe. So if you want to try making it yourself, you can. And thank you for sharing our channel with your friends and family and coworkers. I'm so appreciative of it. So let me know what you think. And let me know if you tried the recipe and you like it too, or if you've tried the mushroom technique and you want to say, Tret, that worked really well. I'd love to hear about it. So until next time, everyone, let's keep exploring the world of wine together. Cheers.